I Want to Love You Till Your Dying Day is an anime famously known for being a Yuri series, but under that opaque layer, you find a goldmine for what it means to have survivor's guilt. Unknown emotions you didn't know come out as these beloved characters are sent to the front lines of a conflict. All the while, the characterization and sophisticated storytelling that drags you into caring about these orphan soldiers makes the grand battle beyond the school feel even more ominous and looming than anything I felt before. Before we get into that, let's get a brief introduction. In this story, orphans are brought in from around the country, given boarding, food, and a new place to call home in exchange for their devoted loyalty to training their magic potential. Once they've reached a sufficient point with their training, they are then summoned to the front lines on occasion to fight the war their country is facing. From the single storyline, so many different branches of introspection open up to the audience. One seemingly difficult question that many series find for themselves is how much of the pie they should dedicate to portraying war and at which degree of severity. For narratives such as the Arknight's IP, it's something that seems intense but loses stopping power to create those gut punches that something this grim should have. In 86, the dual perspective depicts a power imbalance that provides us with viewing in the nitty-gritty and war as something that happens elsewhere. Both of these projects do wonderful in their depiction, but something that I adore about this new anime, Kimishinu, is that it makes up for the missing parts of emotion-centric story beats and presents a new angle with which to look at the situation. In order to understand that though, what is the severity of the war that our characters are subjected to? The circumstance needs to have a solid connection to the subject matter to give that strong emotional tie. In this world, the ongoing war is a pressing matter. It's not as if their doors are going to be busted down the next moment, but without action, who knows when innocent people will be dragged into it. Funnily enough, you could say that all these orphans turned soldiers are innocent, but an important distinction about these systems they find themselves in is that these child soldiers are more effective than your typical draftee from your average town. More often than not, you see the older students going out to the front lines more than our main characters, but there's an exception. Revealed to be their secret weapon, a young girl named Mimi, one person out of the main couple, staves off the enemies with ease and finesse. Her dynamic with the other main character, Sheena, is something that accentuates the compassion between all parties involved in a war. In my opinion, every good war film, anti-war film, television series, or anything in the like can do well when we're describing groups of people and countries having conflict with one another. However, it's a different story when we're faced with the individuals who are participating in the battle. Media that curries my favor has to inspect war through that individualistic lens because no one in the world speaks for an entire collective. Nuanced takes that jump on that idea tend to exhibit more depth than those others. That is where this story divines its most powerful tool, which is the accurate depiction of survivor's guilt. Now, I'm not pretending this is the first anime to ever do it, especially considering I rep Violet Evergarden as one of my favorite series ever. When we take that into consideration, we can view its message earnestly as what it was supposed to be, a look at a loving relationship between people affected by war. The story sets up Sheena to be the damsel in most cases, at least when it comes to conflict. She's impotently capable in regards to magic used in battle. In comparison to Mimi, it is a night and day shift. She is capable of massive destruction, and whenever she is focused on an enemy, there is no losing sight of them. For all the time she spends on the front lines, it is not out of pure rage or instinct that she stays up there. She saves many lives and prevents those, such as Sheena, from having to meet a brutal end too early. While being introduced to this world, the opening piece of information that we get to hang on to about Sheena is that her former roommate had passed away. We are unaware of the exact relationship they had, but as far as it goes, Sheena dislikes the fact that her weakness forces her into this victimized box of helplessness. It's not that she wants to go to war herself though. She conjures up this ideology that no one should be forced into anything, that very concept summarizing Mimi's situation. As far as we've gotten in the anime, the bond that they have is strictly built on the time they spend in their classes and during free time. When Mimi gets summoned more frequently to the front lines, Sheena has to start compartmentalizing how Mimi thinks of the war she is the shining soldier for. Looking a bit into how Mimi understands most of the world, she has been going out to war and back for as long as she's known, so it's become second nature to her. Forming from these 2 points of perspective, Sheena and Mimi create the spectrum of philosophy between how they both feel about the war. As any relationship that is closer than your usual friendship, they clash on these ideas that they've been forced to know throughout their lives. They fight and bicker with one another, but ultimately, this series shows that in romance, but also extenuating circumstances, the answer to issues isn't all or nothing. Like always in life, there are compromises. One aspect of storytelling and existence in general is that nearly all facets of living are nuanced. In this case, that means Sheena and Mimi talk it out with one another. Sheena gets to wrestle with her survivor's guilt, what exactly it is doing for her health and well-being, and where to proceed from there. Mimi is allowed to construct ideas that were never available to her in the past about her circumstances. The story takes these very serious and strenuous topics and turns them into a healthy conversation. That being said, you would not believe my eyes when, at the beginning of the anime, I was introduced to the series as a yuri that would make you melt and yearn. At least, that's how I visualized it in my head. Reading up on the series, seeing that it was rated R as seen on Mal, got me riled up a bit. It made me wonder if the violence shown in the story is really going to be graphic enough to warrant that metric. Color me surprised when it did display that imagery. Not only do the visuals shown portray conflict as terrifying, but the actual plot points consisting of character decisions and such reflect that unpredictability of situations in the heat of the moment. These turn of events cause the war in question to be dreaded, which makes sense why topics such as survivor's guilt are so prominent within the story. It feels like there's a structure to the story, but that composition of story beats draws on the emotion of the audience to sympathize with the cast. To keep it simple, let's take episode 4's bumpy road as an example. At the end of the previous episode leading into the beginning of this one, Mimi reveals to Sheena that she is akin to an undead. We learn later that resurrection magic can bring someone back to life in exchange for one's own life, causing it to be deemed forbidden. The whole character moment of this episode is learning how to come to terms and understand this taboo that encapsulates Mimi's life. For the trajectory of emotion, there's a sharp spike of anxiety as Sheena learns what is confidential information. We have no idea how she might take this secret. Still, we understand that Sheena wants to care for and get to know Mimi as a person. The secret behind war in this anime is to present the faces behind the scenarios and how they've learned to overcome all the obstacles that come with the presence of war, whether spiritually, emotionally, or physically. In my opinion, the war instantly becomes scarier as we come to know about and learn how these characters think, act, and live. For an author writing about a circumstance of consequence, it's evil yet genius to create this buy-in that all audience members instinctively participate in to eventually take part of it away. We saw it almost happen when Sheena was injured in the mock combat exam, but that was another learning moment between Mimi and Sheena. Who knows when the next mistake can mean facing the horrors of this war very plainly and bluntly. Anyhow, that'll be all from me. It's fun to talk about other series other than the works I periodically focus on, so let me know if I should do more of this by liking the video, sharing it, and subscribing for more. If you want to let me know how much you love this anime, whether it's about the relationship with the main characters or the severity of its depiction of war, comment something down below. Thank you very much for watching. See you all later, you cool people.